Yo, what is good, YouTube, and welcome back to another JC2K video. In today's video, we're going to be talking about how to call screens with any player you want in my team. It's really useful for how to effectively run the pick and roll and the pick and pop. Just a very useful strategy that's going to help you to run a lot more creative, different offense. And I think it allows you, honestly, to get a lot better at the game and have more effective opportunities in the game, especially when you're playing against a higher level player. I think it's important to know how to do this so you're not just calling screens with the closest offensive player who's a power forward or center. So before we hop into the video and talk about this, if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. Help me push towards the 14,000 subscriber mark on the channel. I'm uploading every single day, and I would really appreciate it if y'all do subscribe. With that said, without further ado, let's hop right into it. First things first, it's calling screens. The way this works in 2K, you hold LB or L1 or whatever you call it, depending on if you're on Xbox or PlayStation, and it will call the closest power forward or center, your 4 or your 5, towards you to call the pick and roll. To call for a pick and pop, you then hit LB again. I think my brain is actually not, it's all muscle memory for me, so I do it habitually. So for me, it's actually hard to put into words. I almost have to do it as I call it. But one of the things that is very important, this kind of goes in conjunction with having a freelance tab spacing. We're just going to hop into domination to demonstrate this, because I'm not really demonstrating too much in terms of how to use it competitively. I'm just kind of teaching you how to do it today. Could make another video later on potentially talking about how to use it more effectively in a competitive situation, but I am kind of going to explain why it's effective as well. So with that being said, let's hop into this game. Let's win the tip, and then we can talk about how screens work. I think y'all all pretty much know the basics about how screens work, though. Even if you're relatively new to 2K, you know about screens. So you hop into your freelance, and then you call for the screen. I just call for the screen in my center, but if I wanted to call for a screen with Vince Carter, I can call with the screen from Vince Carter. I call screens almost always manually, is the difference between me and a lot of other people. I think a lot of the people will just call for a screen from whoever. I call for almost every screen manually. And how you call for a manual screen with any specific player, like if I want to call for a screen with someone who's not the power forward or the center, say I want to call for a screen with Scottie Pippen. I'm going to hit my left button, or my LB or my L1, whatever you want to call it, and then I'm going to hold Scottie Pippen's icon, and that gave me a pick and roll. Now, if I want to call for a screen and pop with Scottie Pippen, I hold his icon, but then I hit RB, and RB changes it to a pick and fade. That's how you change from pick and fade normally as well. So you hit the left icon to decide who you want to call the screen, and then you use your right bumper to decide if it's a pick and pop or a pick and fade, just like you would normally decide that, which is very useful when you're trying to attack a mismatch, especially if you get a switch, or if, for example, somebody is using a short point guard who's not very good defensively, and they, for example, have Scottie Pippen at the 3. So they put Scottie Pippen defensively in the matchup on your point guard, which say is Kyrie Irving. So then somebody else is his point guard, say it's Amethyst Damian Lillard, is guarding your small forward, which is also Amethyst Scottie Pippen, let's say. You can call for a screen there, which will bring Scottie Pippen up as your screener, and basically make him a lot easier, I would say, a lot more likely to score, because he's got that size mismatch. So you can use him in the pick and roll and take advantage of that size mismatch, and it just allows you to create mismatches. Another thing that is a very useful skill to know is how to quick slip. If you hold LB as they're setting their screen, they will slip to the basket quicker than if you just let them slip yourself. If you hold LB, it'll automatically send them to slip as soon as you hold it. So I'm calling Shawn Kemp for a screen, but I wanted to slip it, so I hold LB. He slips the screen earlier and is able to go, and it's also a way to get them to slip the screen without running into the screen, so I don't have to use the screen to get the center to cut if I'm running a pick and roll, or if I'm running a pick and pop. It'll basically help have them initiate the play that you're running. It's more useful when they're running a roll than a pop, to be honest, but let's just say I have Shawn Kemp and I want to roll him, but I don't want to use the screen. I'm just going to hold LB, and he's going to slip, and then he can, sometimes people will hedge high with a defender, or they have a slower defender, or they have a mismatch. Again, if you have a mismatch with size, you call the screener and then you slip the screener. So again, if it was Scottie Pippen who was matched up against Kyrie Irving, I could call the screener Scottie Pippen and then hold LB to slip him to the rim, so that then he could get that wide open mismatch. So hopefully this kind of makes sense, what I'm saying, in terms of why you would use the screens the way that you do, in terms of creating mismatches or taking advantage of mismatches that may already be there, or just taking advantage of the way that your opponent is playing defense. If he's blitzing really high with the center, or playing really hedging really far out with the center, then that's where you want to be able to have a quick slip so you can take an easy dunk, make him respect that, and then you obviously want to be able to take advantage of being able to call pick and roll and pick and pop with any player, so that you can mix mix up your looks, mix up your coverages, make yourself not too predictable. Because if you do the same thing every single possession, it's going to become predictable and your opponent's more likely to get stops as the game progresses. So having different options is super important. And I think this is a skill that a lot of people just simply are not aware of how to call screens with any player you want and any type of pick and roll or pick and pop you want. It's not complicated at all, but I think it's something that's very, very useful, especially in an online game. Maybe I should have hopped in an online game, but I feel like it's hard to explain it when I'm also trying to play online. But again, like for example, let's just say here, because Kristaps Porzingis is slow, I have a mismatch here, so I want Anthony Davis to come set the screen, and then I want him to slip behind the defender because it's slow. It just gives me opportunities to basically control my players however I want, because I can have them set a slower pick and roll, I can have a faster pick and roll where they quick slip, I can slip them pretty much any time, and then I can also call a pick and pop with any player I want to. So I can attack a mismatch, run different things. So I want to run more pick and pop when I'm going to use more of a rim runner, and then I probably want to use more pick and roll when I'm using more of a 3-hunter, but you do want to mix things up. You don't want to be too predictable, because I think predictability makes you a lot easier to guard, and hopefully this will make it harder for y'all to guard. Another thing, a lot of guards, secondary guards, do not have badges like pick dodger. So if you can call a screen with somebody, for example, who may not be being guarded by the primary defensive card early in the year, where not every card is an elite defender, you might be able to get off that screen a lot easier and get yourself ahead of steam downhill. Can run a pick and pop with an actual good ball handler, like a good 3-hunter who has a fast release. So then you can potentially hit, like if I wanted to run a screen here, like I think Vince Carter is a very capable ball handler, but let's say Vince wasn't the best primary ball handler. He's being guarded by the lock, and Kyrie's not being guarded by the lock. I call the screen with Kyrie. Number one, it gets me going downhill against the lock, but it can also get switches, or it can take advantage of, if you're being guarded by a lock, getting the ball into a ball handler's hands, just creating mismatches, if that makes sense. I'm not entirely sure if what I just last said made sense, but again, there's not really a mismatch on the court, but Jaylen Brown would probably be my main mismatch, and I want to attack him. For example, I call this screen, it slips, it allows for different looks the defenses aren't 100% prepared for if you're not just calling pick and roll and pick and pop with your power forward, with your center. And it's also important to know pick and roll and pick and pop. Like some people may just not know how to do that yet, and if that's you, that's totally fine. But hopefully this video at least does help you out with learning how to do these types of things like quick slipping and how to call a pick and roll, pick and pop, things like that. But the main point of the video is just hit LB, allows you to call for pick and roll or pick and pop with anybody you want, and that will make things a lot easier for you when you're playing my team. So with that being said, I hope this video did help some of y'all out. I've seen it requested a couple times in my comments over the last week or so, so I wanted to make this one to hopefully give y'all some help. Hope I explained it. I might have even explained it too much, might have talked too much, might be a little too long of a video, so I apologize if that's the case, but hope y'all did enjoy. If you did, make sure you hit that like button, leave a comment, and subscribe. I'll be back with more 2K content very, very soon, and I appreciate y'all. Peace.